Greetings from Kyrios Philosophy. Before anything else, let us clarify a few core criteria for divinity, principles that even most Unitarians would accept. To be God is to possess aseity, complete self-sufficiency, independence, and ontological fullness. Acts such as creation, salvation, and revelation must originate from God's essence. Any being who cannot perform these acts alone in every possible world cannot be God. If God is metaphysically dependent on a creature, or if he must utilize a created being to fulfill essential divine acts, his absoluteness collapses. Now let's turn to John 17:3. The verse refers to the Father as the only true God, and to Jesus as the one whom you have sent. This construction is not exclusionary but descriptive. The phrase sent does not imply ontological subordination, but rather missional commissioning. There is no indication in the text that being sent entails a lesser nature. In fact, when we consider the broader scriptural context, we observe that Jesus also sends his disciples using the exact same Greek verb, epistemic, in Matthew 10:5. Does that mean he is ontologically superior to them? By Unitarian logic, yes. Therefore, if Unitarians insist that being sent implies ontological inferiority, they must accept that Jesus is ontologically superior to his disciples. That's an internal inconsistency, a dilemma. And here's where the real dilemma unfolds. Suppose Jesus is not divine. Yet according to John 1:3 and Colossians 1:16, all things were created through him. That means the Father is not the sole creator. He is dependent on a secondary agent. But then he cannot be self-sufficient, and thus cannot be the one true God. John 1:3 is unambiguous. All things were made through him, and without him, nothing was made that has been made. If Jesus is a created being, how could he exist before everything else that was made? He would have to precede himself, a contradiction. Some Muslims and Unitarians argue it was not necessity, but choice. The Father chose to use Jesus. But in modal logic, this doesn't suffice. To claim that God chose to use Jesus still implies dependency in the actual world. Unless you can demonstrate a possible world in which the Father creates, reveals, and saves without Jesus, your modal defense collapses. But Scripture does not permit such a world. It declares that all things, without exception, came into being through the Son. If this is true in all possible worlds, then the Son is eternally and necessarily existent. He is uncreated. Let's go deeper. John 1:18 and Matthew 11:27 say that no one knows or sees the Father except the Son. Even angels and humans remain epistemically distant. Why? Because the Son alone perfectly knows and reveals the essence of the Father. But how could a creature represent the infinite Creator perfectly? Representation without essence. Sharing results in misrepresentation. If the Son is not divine, then the Father has chosen a false image, a heresy. Hebrews 1:3 claims the Son is the exact imprint, character, of God's essence. A finite creature cannot carry the infinite impress of divine essence. Either the Son shares in the divine nature, or the representation is false. So we are left with only two options. Either Jesus is divine. He shares the same essence with the Father. John 17:3 doesn't exclude him. It describes a functional and relational distinction, not an ontological hierarchy. This is perfectly compatible with monarchical Trinitarian metaphysics and hypostatic distinctions. Or, Jesus is not divine. But then the Father is existentially dependent on a non-divine agent for creation, salvation, and revelation. This makes the Father incomplete and historically disconnected. And that disqualifies him as the one true God. And that's reductio ad absurdum. In modal terms, in every possible world where the Father creates, reveals, and saves through the Son, and the Son is the necessary means through which those divine acts occur. Then the Son is ontologically necessary. Therefore, if he is necessary in every world, he is not contingent. He is uncreated. Thus, the Unitarian position self-implodes. Either Jesus is necessary, eternal, and divine, or the Father is not independent, absolute, or truly God. This is the Unitarian dilemma, and it remains unsolved.